Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Joe and Joe Weather Show on this Monday night, the 8th of November. All I had was a piece of parm cheese, by the way. I didn't have it with a glass of wine. The Joe and Joe Weather Show brought to you by Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, and they are all set to make your yard the absolute envy of the neighborhood with all sorts of beautiful outdoor decorations, topping it all off with the elves. And the telephone number is 631-957-5106, and the website is liholidaylighting.com. Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125. The best prices anywhere in the New York City tri-state area and beyond on rock salt, which they have plenty of. And don't wait till the last minute to get your snow melt products, folks, because you know they're going to be tough to find. Pelleto, Mag, Ice Pellets, and Flakes. Omni has it all, along with anything else you might need, including maybe a new snowblower. 631-756-1125 is the phone number, and the website is omnitruevalue.com. Well, I managed to stagger through that.
Are you sure you didn't have any wine?
No, I didn't. I had no wine. I just had a little piece of parm cheese, something to nibble on. And that's just about it. So we seem to be on course. A week quiet, cold front with rain and maybe some thunder on Friday into Friday night. Looks like the front moves along. We turn colder behind it relative to where we'll be over the next few days. Colder behind it. Then there's a diver with another cold front on Monday. That might produce some lake effect snows in upstate New York, and maybe some non-lake effect snows in parts of interior New England. Then it gets cold for a day or two. Then we go through the whole process all over again, Joe. We warm up, another front, and that next front, which is not going to come probably until in 12 days or so, that will be the one that will get the whole ball rolling. And I'm really growing more and more confident that once that goes by and we go into Thanksgiving week, we're going to be in a rather cold pattern for this time of year.
Well, it may very well be that we'll see the upper level winds start bringing more of that colder air down from Canada by the latter part of this month. And there's some people out there who are waiting for that. And on the other hand, though, I can't say enough of the fact that I really enjoyed today. Blue skies, brilliant sunshine. We got up to 63 here in Putnam Valley, and we may very well have a few more days like this until, again, that first cold front arrives with some wet weather on Friday. And that front actually is being generated by what appears to be some kind of a low-pressure storm system that's hitting the West Coast right now.
Yes.
And that will kind of spread out in the days to come, and eventually will be making its way all the way across the country to our neck of the woods, again, for the end of the week on Friday.
Yep. Oh, and SPC, by the way, which had no thunderstorms forecast for today or tomorrow anywhere in the United States, they broke down and they actually had to put in a chance for thunderstorms on the West Coast. And we'll show you that. So we lost those 2 days where it said no thunderstorms are forecast and the whole U.S. map was blank. I just want to check how warm we got here today in northeast Georgia, because it was 28 this morning for the low. Oh,
28?
Yes, 28 this morning for the low. And, and the high today, and I knew it had to break 70 when I went outside because it just felt so warm compared to this morning. 73.
That's amazing.
Yeah, yesterday.
What a spread.
Yeah, yesterday's high was 65 for a high after a low of 26, and the day before we had a low of 20. No, the low was 25 yesterday. I'm sorry, for Sunday morning it was 25, and it got to 65. Yeah, it's a 40-degree jump. I mean, that's hefty.
It is. It is.
Yes. So
We only got down to 39 here in Putnam Valley, and that 39-degree low was set at midnight last night. For goodness sake!
yeah,
So we didn't get any. We didn't even get. I mean, we went through a run of 4 days where our temperatures dropped to 30, 32, 30, and 29. And so from 29 degrees on Sunday morning, we jumped to 39 for a low temperature, a 10-degree jump last night and early this morning.
welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight. We love having you as always. The bigger the crowd, the better. And we're going to get rolling here, Joe. A late start at 8:30 because you had a library, another one of those virtual library things you do. And
yes, indeed.
Okay, so that's
I've only got one more of those. That's next week, and then of course I go away for a little while.
Oh, so you're not
going to do without me, Joe?
Yeah, listen, I was thinking about that today. I've gotten so used to you being here to that when I go on by myself now, it's a little bit problematic. When I was soloing, I was used to carrying a show for 45 minutes or an hour, sometimes even a little bit longer. But with the two of us doing it together, the stress is off somewhat. So now I not only have to switch everything, but I gotta jabber while I'm doing it. So I'll excuse me. Somehow I'll figure it out.
Now we'll be doing a couple of shows, at least a couple of shows together from down under. At least that's what I hope.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you get some nice visuals of orca going by, or even the mysterious blue whale.
Well, I don't know whether or not we're going to see. I definitely think we're going to see a few penguins. That's pretty much a given, I think.
Yeah,
maybe we'll see one with a top hat.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. All right, let's check.
I leave you alone. I leave you alone for a few minutes, and what happens? You end up on the menu.
Yes. So the old coastal low, which was tucked in the Carolinas for a few days, that is finally inched out far enough east that allowed the ridge of high pressure to kind of slide a little bit further east. There's no cold air left from the cold shot from last night. So we are warming up in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states in rebound, and there are going to be some subtle changes over the next couple of days. I kind of thought that Tuesday and Friday, tomorrow and Friday, would be the warmest of the days this week. Wednesday, because we got this little front that's coming through tomorrow night, and it probably won't produce very much, that Wednesday could be a couple of degrees cooler. I mean, still will get into the 60s, but probably on the lower end. And then Thursday, I think the issue on Thursday is that where the high slides out, that the wind is going to go south-southeast, and that with ocean water temperatures now down around 60 or even a little bit less in some places, I think that's going to put a lid on the highs. But no rain really of consequence until we get to Friday. And as Joe pointed out, by the way, you could see that energy that is coming into the west, very impressive here, rolling into central and northern California. We also have some subtropical moisture that's running into the southwest. It really isn't doing very much. And then that front I mentioned for tomorrow night is kind of moving its way through the northern plains, and we've got some clouds and some precip streaming northeastward from there. And of course, rain, by the way, extends all the way up into the Pacific Northwest. But east of the Mississippi, looking good. Here's the radar tonight. No, the site can be reached. It's just going to refresh here. Hang on. Let's see. Let's bring it up there. So the east, obviously not much going on. You've got some light precip up in northern Wisconsin and in the upper peninsula of Michigan. But take a look out west in California. Some very heavy rains now moving in from. Wait a minute. I'm just trying to judge the geography there. It looks kind of strange to me. What did they read? What did they do? Oh, so basically, you've got some moderate rain coming into San Francisco, and then there's heavier rains further up the coast into Northern California there, and then a little bit of a break, and there's some rain offshore Washington and Oregon. That's the energy, as you said, Joe. That's the energy for Friday's weather system.
Yeah, and the one thing that is never ever mentioned on regular television weathercasts, and that's because when you see a weather map, everything looks flat to you, but those Rocky Mountains play a significant role when you have a big system coming in from the Pacific Ocean. The system just comes in, interacts with the Rockies. Literally, the Rockies kind of break up or shred apart the energy and the moisture, and then as the system continues to move to the east and goes to the east of the Rockies, it tries to put itself all back together again. But quite often, when it does so, it doesn't put it together quite the same way as when it came in from the Pacific. And so here you have a situation where a rather, potent and solid low pressure system in the Pacific will eventually come on through the Rockies, get kind of scrambled for a short while, and then when it reforms, we'll have a storm, but also we'll actually have a frontal zone that will become the main player for us as we move on into the end of the week. And I think the other thing that's important to point out, Joe, everything is progressive.
Yes.
Everything is moving very quickly. So this is going to be a one-day thing. It'll move in, it'll arrive here early on Friday. It'll be out of here by the end of Friday or Friday evening. And we might have some spotty leftovers on Saturday, but Saturday should be okay. And then it turns noticeably colder, I think, for Sunday and for the start of next week.
Right. And the system out in the west, by the way, because I have the surface map up, the 21Z plot. It's not. We had that low. What was it, 2 weeks ago? There was a 940 something low that was over there. This one's a 989. So it's not, at least from the surface standpoint, it's not quite as deep. There's actually two centers. There's one sitting out east of the southern coast of Oregon. There's a second center, a 981, stronger center, right along 50 degrees north. And that complex continues to move eastward. And then, of course, you see how the ridge now has sort of reoriented itself in the east from West Virginia down into northern Alabama. And your coastal low on the far right is at 998. The Hurricane Center was mentioning this as a chance that this could acquire subtropical characteristics, but on their latest outlook, they took that out. So it's just going to get absorbed by whatever's out there in the North Atlantic. And quite frankly, it's kind of a good thing that it is, because we've seen it happen a couple of times this season where we've had these offshore systems develop. And what they do is they basically slow everything down, keeping us in a ridge position here along the East Coast until it gets out of the way. It's doing that right now, but the fact that it's not becoming anything tropical and the fact that it's going to be absorbed by a low pressure up to the north of it eventually, we're not going to have that problem. And you see where the next front is for tomorrow night. It's in northern Michigan, just about getting ready to move through Milwaukee. The air behind this front is not especially cool. I mean, it's maybe about 10 degrees cooler than the air ahead of it, 5 to 10 degrees cooler. So it's just a weak high. It's just a weak change. So that's why you're not going to see any big fall in temperature when this front comes through compared to Tuesday. If we make, I was thinking low to mid 60s tomorrow. Maybe somebody pushes it to the upper end to about 67 or 68, and then more like low 60s for highs on Wednesday.
And again, the quest for colder air looks like we'll be seeing more of that as we get into the from what it looks like right now, Joe. And again, what are we talking about here? We're talking about days and days and days down the road. But for those who are already making plans for Thanksgiving, it looks like by getaway day on Thanksgiving into the actual big day, Turkey Day, it's looking to me like some parts of the country are going to have some very, very unsettled conditions, which you don't like to see on a big holiday like that. But we may very well have to deal with that in this year, 2021.
Yep. Okay, WSBC. There's that little area of thunderstorms in California, and the radar kind of verifies that some of that heavier rain, that there's probably some lightning and thunder with that's coming in. And then for tomorrow, none of this is severe, by the way. It's just general thunderstorms. And the same for tomorrow. They added an area of general thunderstorms in western Washington and a small portion of northwestern Oregon. They did stick a teeny tiny area of marginal risk, well, maybe a little bit more than teeny tiny, in in central Oklahoma for Wednesday into Thursday, and that's part of that next frontal boundary that is going to be moving through. WPC, from the standpoint of rainfall from that system from the end of the week, it looks like it's generating about a half to 3/4 of an inch, a couple of pockets of an inch plus in northeast PA and up into the Catskills, extending down into the central Appalachians. Mounts drop off a bit as you head toward the southeast coast and into Florida. They pick up again, going west across the middle and upper Mississippi Valley and in the northwestern Great Lakes and on up into northern Minnesota. And some of that's probably going to be in the form of snow when that system goes through there. And of course, you see the clobbering in the Pacific Northwest in the next 7 days of several to many inches, with up to a couple of inches down through central California. Not quite down to LA, but definitely getting San Francisco in there. But then it starts to shut off once you get just north of LA. The rain area pretty much shuts off. Now, I want to look at the teleconnections because the NAO, the North Atlantic Oscillation, is always the one that seems to be the most volatile. And as we've been looking at it over the last week or so, we've seen it stay pretty much negative through the forecast period. Well, guess what? Today, we see it actually going positive toward the end of the week. And as Joe, you pointed out, not that we have any kind of serious blocking here, we don't, but the fact that these weather systems are moving quickly west to east, will be moving quickly west to east, and the NAO is pushing up above the neutral line. It doesn't go crazy positive; it's only slightly positive, and that allows these systems to move on. It also means that when the cold shot comes in early next week, it's going to do just like the one we had. It's going to come in, center over us, then move out, and then we have to wait for another front, which would be probably the weekend going into the Thanksgiving week holiday. So the NAO, by the way, does go back to the neutral line from positive around after the 16th, and then you start to see again where half the members are negative, half the members are positive. The PNA is ever so weakly positive right now. Actually, it's a little bit negative. It goes weakly positive, and then you got, they straddle the neutral line. It looks like more of the PNA members are actually negative after November 16th than positive, but not by a whole lot. So there's enough there. This was off the 0Z ensemble last night. Looking at the day runs today, both the 12 and the 18Z, I would probably argue that the PNA would be a little bit stronger there, more toward the neutral line or maybe even slightly positive. So why don't we take a look at some of the maps here. I just pulled up this is the snowfall for the next 16 days. It's not snow cover, it's snowfall. And actually, Joe, you look at this is from the 12Z run. This should really finally put some snow cover across Canada, which is what we've been waiting for. There's been a very, very slow, almost non-existent snow cover in Canada. Well, this is going to change over the next 2+ weeks.
Well, certainly, Joe. I mean, we had, excuse me, we had a fall about 2 or 3 years ago. You remember when Canada got off to a roaring start,
right,
with snow cover, and I mean this year it's just been the opposite, the complete opposite of that. And you start, I'm sure even the folks up in Canada start scratching their heads saying, "Gee, when are we going to start, seeing something significant in terms of snowfall. So it's for those of you who are into snow, it's nice to see that we are going to see some changes, courtesy of the change in the upper level patterns as we move through the next week or two. And it's about time. My goodness, we're already into the middle part of November.
Yeah. Now the 18Z, which it should be probably not too different. So excuse me, Joe. Got a little dust in me. Yeah, the 18Z also pretty loaded here across Canada, particularly in eastern Canada and up in Labrador and on some of the western shores of let's call it Lower Hudson Bay. Some rather significant snowfall indicated. Now, again, not snow cover, but you got to think that what falls in Canada now is going to wind up sticking. And we've been emphasizing this because you really can't get quality cold air unless there's some snow cover up there. Without the snow cover, air masses coming down would modify very, very quickly. So the snow cover is a requirement in order to sort of, let's say, preserve the integrity of the cold air masses. And
right.
We're going to get it's going to happen. I mean, it was just a matter of time that we were going to see that. And take a look. I just take a look at this. This is now. This is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, on the 18Z. And by the way, the 12Z I thought was a very dynamic run in the longer term, and we could take a look at that. Now I know we're jumping out 16 days, but if it ever looks like this, Joe, it's going to be cold. I mean, look at the connection that sets up from the Arctic into the southeastern part of the United States.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
Actually, Joe, if closer in, I think that during the first, from Sunday to about Tuesday of next week, we may see temperatures locally here about as cold, if not even colder, than what we've just experienced. I mean, a real, good shot, if you will, of colder air. But then things modify rather rapidly toward the middle and latter part of next week. And then we have to wait for that next round to come in, which, again, as you're pointing out here, coincides with Thanksgiving time. So it's going to be we're going to be in and out of this. There'll be shots of rather mild temperatures, which we have now. We'll go back to some colder conditions here later in the weekend, early next week. Mild up again, and then perhaps turn really cold just in time for Turkey Day. This year we may have cold turkey, maybe.
We're actually seeing a repeat performance of the cold shot we just had, followed by a warm up, followed by a cold front, followed by a cold shot, followed by a warm up, followed by another cold front. It's very, it's pretty much like wash, rinse, repeat.
Progressive.
Yes, very progressive. Everything moving along. And the one thing, let's run through. This is the latest GFS. I rolled it back. This is yesterday. Of course, you see the low off the southeast coast. And of course, once that upper low moves out, you get this little ridge that pops up here in the east. And then there's a short wave that is moving through eastern Canada. You can see it right in here, the little upper low there, sitting over western Hudson Bay. There's a little short wave, and that's our cold front that comes through tomorrow night. And of course, you see all this mess in the west. Everything's kind of screaming in from the low in the south of the Aleutians, and then moisture pushing into the west coast, which has been really unrelenting for the last almost 3 weeks. Now, here's the system for the end of the week. Wrapped up cutoff low develops in the western lakes. We get our cold front for Friday night. The trough is going to lag a bit, so we're going to have this cold trough over us on Saturday, as you mentioned. Probably some spotty showers certainly be around. Then we're back to what the models were doing a few days ago, where rather than have that front lag and keep us in rain into at least part of Saturday, that short wave lifts up, and then another one, you see it right here, is diving in behind it, and that dives into the Ohio Valley and kind of pivots around. And this is going to be you'll get a shot of cold air, as you said, on Monday, on Sunday. Then on Monday, we have like a secondary front that will come through, and this will probably produce some lake effect snows, I would think. And then that brings the coldest part of that cold air for, say, Monday night into Tuesday. Then that lifts out. Here comes a little ridge again in the eastern part of the United States, and then the next trough follows right behind it. And this starts the process because you start to get blocking developing east of Greenland. So that starts to slow everything down, and it sort of traps this vortex in eastern Canada over Labrador, and it just begins to rotate and rotate and rotate, and then you wind up with this by the time we get to Thanksgiving Day. Now, granted, I'm sure we're going to see some changes in the specifics of this, but when I looked at the ensembles, they have been very consistent. The ensembles are showing us turning colder with troughing in the east and ridging in the west for Thanksgiving week. Below normal temperatures, going to even much below normal temperatures if this were to verify. So I'm really fairly confident that all the things that we've been seeing over the last couple of weeks are going to play out as we've advertised. Maybe not exactly as advertised, but close enough.
Yep. I would agree. I would agree. There's no sign that we're going to be seeing, because up until now, or actually up until about a few days ago, when we looked at the 10 millibar map centered on the North Pole, the polar regions. I mean, there was nothing in Canada. There was remember there was like that ridge of high pressure,
right?
And it was, and there was no. Now all of a sudden things are opening up, and we're seeing that flow from crossing through Canada from the polar regions. So yeah, it's finally maybe a few weeks late, but it is finally indeed showing signs that we're trending toward a wintry type of weather pattern.
Well, we had to wait for the thing to start to pivot around and to begin to strengthen and stretch, and that's what it's done. If we're looking at this is the 10 millibar map, and you can see that the vortex. Remember, it was sitting on the north coast of Siberia, oriented east-west across Siberia into Europe, and we were, as you pointed out, we were actually in a bit of a ridge position here in the stratosphere. But we're seeing here on the 10 millibar map that this upper low that's up there is just it's just stretched out, very elongated in I guess that's southwest northeast, but I would be. It's not wrapped up like a tight little ball, and it's not really that strong. So you don't want a strong polar vortex because that pins all the cold air up in the Arctic region. If it remains like this in this sort of very flat, stretched out position, I would think that would be bullish for cold air intrusions to first build down into Canada and then gradually spread into the United States.
Yeah, the actual vortex is doing kind of a loop-de-loop, if you will, around the polar regions over the next couple of weeks. So
I mean, see it there.
For any of you who are hoping for possibly the whole darn thing to drop on down to Hudson or James Bay, that's not happening, and that usually doesn't happen. When it does happen, you have to wait until it really has gotten quite cold, which is January or February.
Right.
For the moment, it stays up there. It elongates at times, and each elongation, if you will, that slides across our neck of the woods in North America is what usually induces the colder air to move in or move down.
Correct. All right, let's look at the GFS surface to play all this out, because obviously the weather. When you look at the map from today for this evening, the rains. Actually, the model was a little bit. This is rainfall. It's actual measured rainfall. It's not the radar. The radar would show the precip coming ashore a bit faster in the west, but just about except for the west, you see there was very little in terms of precip going on. The little bit of shower activity that's in upstate New York for tomorrow night is with that weak cold front, which gets right on top of us and just basically falls apart. So we'll should have a good deal of sunshine here on Wednesday. I think most of tomorrow should be fine. Maybe there might be a few clouds later in the day and tomorrow night. And then Thursday, again, it's more of a south or a south-southeast wind to hold temperatures down. You start to see this cold front taking shape in west of the Mississippi Wednesday evening. Low pressure there moves up over Lake Superior. Looks like the snow is, we're getting some snow forecasts for parts of Minnesota, but looks like and North Dakota, that's kind of backed off a little bit. Doesn't look all that impressive than what it did a couple of days ago. But here's your cold front now reaching the coast as the low runs up towards James Bay. So rain on our doorstep. By Friday morning, it's probably raining here, but then it goes away. It's gone. And you can see the gradient actually is not too shabby for Saturday. I think it's going to be on the breezy side. There's just some spotty showers. You can see some lake effect there near Lake Ontario and Lake Erie and around Michigan, both the lower and upper peninsula. And then you've got that secondary arm that comes through, and that low sort of, well, on GFS, it's not very well defined, but this is a secondary cold front that arrives for my Sunday evening. There's rain and snow showers in Pennsylvania and western New York, and you can see for Monday morning, you're getting light snows in western PA, upstate New York, and into central New England, some light rain near the coast. And this is the coldest part of that cold air that comes in. Then, of course, the high moves overhead. By Wednesday, we start warming up again with the southwest flow. Here comes the next cold front for next Friday, and this one is a strong one. And then after that, the bottom falls out, and it turns cold. It turns actually quite cold with these thicknesses here for that weekend before Thanksgiving, and then going into Thanksgiving week, looks like even more reinforcements coming down from the north. So we seem to be on course. Whether it turns out exactly like this, likely not, once we get past early next week, but pretty certain that it's going to work out that at least through the arrival of this next cold front late next week, that's not going to be too different. One thing about progressive patterns as opposed to when you have blocking, the models are a little better handling those situations than they are when you've got blocking. Because when you got blocking, any subtle change is gonna change everything. But when you just got it's one trough, one ridge, one next trough, next ridge, they're sort of moving along. They're much easier to predict, and you can have a much higher degree of confidence in what the models are doing.
Yeah, and like I said before, I think this next round of cold, which will be arriving, I think actually Monday and into Tuesday of next week should be again perhaps the coldest we have seen yet. But it's short-lived because again everything is very progressive, and we may warm up big time. Let's say the middle or latter part of not this week, but next week after that shot of cold weather, and then, as you said, Joe, as we get into Thanksgiving week, we may see the bottom fall out once again. So it's going to be very interesting. I won't say it's an exciting pattern, but it certainly is not a boring weather pattern, as things will be changing from time to time and from place to place over the next week or two.
Yep. All right, let's do a little Briller Jeopardy. And the chairman has actually set up some Antarctica themes. I'm sorry, an Antarctica theme. Okay, so let's begin with the highest and lowest temperatures ever recorded in Antarctica.
Oh God, I should know this, and actually, I need to bone up on this in the next 2 or 3 weeks so that I'll actually sound as the English liaison to these people on this ship. At least I'll sound like I know something.
But by the way, hang on 1 second. Just real quick, LB Jeffries. What does progressive patterns mean? Progressive means everything. It's not political. It's not political weather. Progressive patterns. Progressive patterns means everything moves from west to east on a regular basis. It just everything just moves right along. One system goes in, one system goes out. And by the way, is your name a throwback? I'm just curious if your name, if you use that as an identifier, if that, because I think that's Jimmy Stewart's character name in Rear Window, but just wondering. So anyway, yeah, lowest and highest, Joe.
Oh, dear me. Gee, in terms of let's see, zero, um, 32, zero, boom, boom, boom. Could it be that we're talking about something like 70 or 80 below zero for
Not
the
even.
lowest temperature?
Oh, Prunella, not even close.
Well, then I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it in terms of Fahrenheit, Joe. I meant Celsius.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right. Well, the lowest. I'll give you a hint. It would be the opposite of Death Valley, roughly.
So like it's 120 degrees below zero.
128.8 measured in downtown Vostok.
Okay. Vostok.
Right. Now, the highest was recorded in that beautiful, almost Florida-like South Polar region. And actually, I think that this was a record that was set maybe for them last summer. So, sometime last year, last summer.
Could it be something on the order of, let's say, 50 degrees Fahrenheit or
64.9?
Wow.
64.9.
Well, there you go. There you go, folks.
Now,
that's why the ice is melting.
What percentage of the Earth's ice, of the world's ice, is located in Antarctica?
Well, I think it's a split between Antarctica and Greenland. They're both more or less like, ice caps, so to speak. So I'll say 20%.
No, believe it or not, I would think higher, but I didn't think it was this high. 90% of the world's
Really?
ice. Yeah. Well, when you think about it, I mean, you're talking about a landmass too, so that's included, because a lot of the land is, caked under many, many, many feet of ice. So 90%.
Oh, it's like fun. I think it's something like there are parts of Antarctica that's something like 5,000 feet above sea level, and they even have volcanoes in Antarctica. Joe, I think there's like 4 or 5 of them that are situated near to each other.
Yes, and in fact, on those volcanic slopes, I don't know which penguin it is, if it's the Adelie penguin or the chinstrap penguins or one of the others. They actually nest there.
Wow.
They nest on the volcanic slope.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see a lot of the wildlife down there. And yes, there is quite a bit of wildlife despite the extreme temperatures. So I'm told. To interact with that's going to be that'll be pretty interesting and pretty amazing.
Yep. And the last question is, how many inches of precip does the whole continent get average per year?
Oh God, with such cold temperatures as what they have almost year round, I don't think that there's any place on the actual continent that would see more than about 5 inches total.
Yeah,
if that much.
Yeah, 6.5.
Yeah.
And by the way, I believe it's also the windiest continent.
Well, one of the things I'm not looking forward to in this trip is going through the Drake Passage. And the Drake Passage is probably one of because there's the interaction between the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the combination of the extreme conditions, the extreme temperature variations that produce probably the roughest seas on the surface of the Earth. And they've already, I'm already committing myself to well, actually, our doctor, we've already asked our physician about this, and
Dr.
rather
Bombay.
than Chuck. Well, I think even Dr. Bombay would say, don't chuck the Dramamine like M&Ms. they're recommending the patch, and this.
Oh
And I
yeah.
know you've never been on a cruise ship for any
No,
length of time,
and I
Joe,
never will.
and you never will. Now, really, let me ask you a question, quite honestly.
Right.
And I actually said, and I said no initially to this because I know that the weather for the eclipse is not going to be good. It's 90% chance of cloud cover, and I don't want to go through that Drake Passage. But still, it was drilled into me by more than a few people. Yeah, but think of it: how many times you offered a chance to see Antarctica?
Right.
So I'll ask you, Joe, if you were offered this same opportunity, what would you do?
No.
No. Okay.
I don't think I would go. For me, the boat thing. The idea of being out there.
Well, you wouldn't even want to go on a cruise ship in the Caribbean with
Right.
stabilizers and everything else. So don't even ask going on something like this.
Right. Exactly. It's not. The idea of going on a cruise is just, no, no, not at all. I don't know. Maybe if when I was younger, maybe I might have had come up with a different answer, but not now. I wouldn't do it now. So, but but I'm an anomaly because I don't like cruises. I don't want to go on a cruise. Look,
I know.
my problem is.
Well, I mean, I don't.
My problem is I was on a ferry boat from Naples to Capri, and it was basically a glorified. You've seen those stories over the years of these ferry boats that sink in the Mediterranean or wherever and they're carrying like 200 or 300 people on a ship that shouldn't have more than maybe 20. Okay, and well, we get out there. There's 7 foot waves. It was horrible. I vomited for an hour, and I started throwing up just as we left the port, and I threw up all the way to Capri. 90 minutes. I was beyond whatever I had eaten for breakfast that morning, which was hardly anything. Okay, so I was doing. I was even past the dry heaves. My stomach was just convulsing. I couldn't get it to stop. I was physically mimicking a vomit, but nothing was coming out anymore because it was all gone. And I have to tell you, it was. It was one of those moments there it sounds funny what I'm about to say, but I was dead serious. I asked God to take me. I was in I was like, please, I want this, and just end this. I'll kill me, just kill me right now. And I've been on boats since, and I went fishing in Long Island Sound and a few other places like that. But no, not doing it. Not doing it. My friend Phil's been trying to get me to go on a shark trip out 20 miles to the Baltimore Canyon, and I just refuse.
One of the most frightening things in my life, and you mentioned Capri. I have been to the Mediterranean. I went to the Blue Grotto, and the Blue Grotto is interesting. It looks like from the outside it's a cave, and when you go into the grotto, the water looks like tiny bowl blue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a beautiful sight. But what scared the heck out of me, Joe, is that you go in with the boat, and apparently it was during the time of a high tide. The boat is getting high, the tide or the water is getting higher, and now my concern was, would we be able to get out of there? Because here's the opening, and the water is getting up like that. And I started asking the guy. I said, what happens if we can't get out? He says, oh, we'll just stay in here for a while. And I mean, like, I mean, you talk about water claustrophobia. We were able to get out, but that was a scary. That was, to me, was scary.
Do you remember?
I understand you.
Go ahead. I'm finished. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, but I understand your concerns about, because I have been. On that same trip, we were going through. I forget what the name of the strait was, between Sicily and I think Italy and Malta. We were going to Malta, and we had one night and we were on a relatively small cruise line. Literally, Joe, we were at times we were at 45-degree angles.
Yes.
And
No.
at times it felt like somebody was pounding on the side of the ship.
No.
And they had the barf bags on the stairwell. As you know, that's how bad it was. Everybody was like, that has gone through my mind. That was in 1993. I have rerun that so many times since I've said yes to this upcoming adventure. And again, the mere thought of going through the Drake, but that's the way it is. Now,
well,
what were
don't
you
you have to go
say?
through? Don't you have to go through the Drake Passage twice?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just.
Thank you. Thank you.
I needed to remind you of that.
We leave from Punta Arenas in the bottom of South America from Chile, and then we sail on to Antarctica to the Weddell Sea, which is said to be the clearest, most pristine body of water in the world, and it, all these ice flows and everything else. But in order to get there, you have to go through the Drake Passage, and then to come back to Punta Arenas, you have to go back through the Drake Passage. So I am not looking forward to this, and maybe I even told Renata, I said, please bring along a mallet, put it in the suitcase, and when we get into the Drake Passage, just hit me over the head with the mallet, and I'll be out for a day or two. That's
yeah. No, I listen. Yeah, I don't want to. I don't ever want to repeat that experience. And by the way, I don't know if you remember this, but remember 4 or 5 years ago, there was the boat captain that had one of those cruise ships that drove. This was during the wintertime that drove into one of those major storms along the East Coast. I think it was in January. Maybe it was January of 17 or 18, one of those. And he basically took the boat up the coast, the cruise liner up the coast into a storm where the pressure was down to like 968.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he threw all the weather people on the bus, under the bus, by saying that it was a surprise storm. Nobody knew it was there. Meanwhile, had been talking about it for 5 or 6 days. A friend of mine, my friend Bert, was on that ship.
Oh,
and
God.
he's been on cruises before many times, and he was on that ship, and he said even for him, because usually stuff doesn't bother him, he said even for him, he said it was hell. And he described pretty much what you described about being at like a 45-degree angle. Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that.
Here, I'm quoting from the brochure, from the online brochure of the trip that I'm going on. and you read this and you say to yourself, why the hell would I spend money to go on this? But this is what they say. If there is one place, one sea, one waterway dreaded by tourists, researchers, and hardened seafarers alike, it is undoubtedly the Drake Passage, situated at the latitude of the infamous Furious 50s, winds between Cape Horn and the South Shetland Islands. It is the shortest route to connect Antarctica to South America. Seasoned navigators will tell you that you must earn your visit to the White Continent by going through the Drake Passage, as the Antarctic convergence zone, where the cold currents rise up from the South Pole, meet warmer equatorial water masses. Drake Passage harbors a very diverse marine fauna. Don't forget to look to the sky to catch a glimpse of the elegant albatross and Cape petrels playfully floating about in the wind around your ship. Yes. Meanwhile, I'm going like, whoa!
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, why did I sign up for this, Joe? Why?
All right. Well, on that note, let's call an end to it tonight. Thanks everybody for being here. We'll be back.
Christopedia, do you want to go in my place? He's saying, Joe, you're totally going to psych yourself out.
Yeah, exactly. Precisely. All right. Tomorrow night we'll be back at our regular shopping time, which is 7:30 Eastern. So we hope to see you then. And thanks to the chairman for hitting Super Chat and for the wonderful Antarctica questions. So we'll do it all over again tomorrow, 7:30 Eastern. And the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by, hold on, wait for it, folks, wait for it. Omni True Value Hardware at 1226 North Wellwood Avenue in West Babylon, New York. 631-756-1125 for the best prices in town. OmniTrueValue.com. The website, Wholesale Holiday Lighting by Giannini, your complete holiday lighting specialist, meeting all your decorating needs at 162 Ocean Avenue in Lindenhurst, New York, 631-957-5106, and the website, liholidaylighting.com. Okay, see you tomorrow, folks. Nighty-night.
Nighty-night from LB Jeffries. Nighty-night from the white-haired one.
Yes. Nighty-night.